Well, I'm doing these free will videos and just all kinds. I'm not the only one that's made these before. And there's old Soup X videos. There's just all these videos and all of these intelligent people. Well, there isn't a free will. And I've just got to take this from a different angle, the poet philosopher thing. And I can't take credit for the idea myself. I just have to tell you that there's part of this idea is just an argument Nietzsche makes. Okay, he's the one that says there's no free or unfree will. I use this. I think it's fair to just use that line. There is no free or unfree will. There's strong and weak wills. This is how he got in trouble because some people thought that's a description of might makes right or something. Like weak is bad and strong is good. It's much more complicated than that, and that's another issue, all right? But he's the one that says that. And really, he makes criticisms about Christianity, democracy. They all hinge around the same thing. That when you deny the will or badmouth the will, it's the same as badmouthing life. It's the same as, promises of a better hereafter, no matter how good you think life is, when absolute paradise is on the outside of this interval, this bound interval we call life. Basically, he always analyzes such phenomena, denying will, as, like consumptive, like the kind of sickness you get that just eats you up slowly from inside. Maybe you still live to 90, but you just shrivel up. Or maybe you don't quite live as long as you would have. But who knows about your survival? It's just that there's some sort of consumption, in this case of an intellect. And in the Soup X video, I just watched for a little bit. He's all going on about how I can feel there's an illusion. We're all born, and I can feel it right now. I can raise my arm if I want to, or I cannot. I can feel the illusion right now. And what does he have to doubt that illusion? A bunch of principles that tell him it's an illusion. It's not a very direct experience, but okay. The only thing I really have against it as like a plague among intelligent people is the fact that I agree with Nietzsche. I think it's consumptive of the soul. I think it's like committing suicide, but becoming some sort of a zombie. Now, don't worry, I'm not calling all of you this way because, like Soup X says, you feel this illusion and you live with it. Now, I'm in enough control of my will that if I believed it was an illusion, I would ignore my will. Now, I know that for a fact because in my life I've been in such control of my will that I've had to loosen it up. I've had to let it go a little bit. I know I've had very strong urges that I was able to suppress that I found out later. There's reasons you have some of these urges. You know what I mean? You can't just act on them blindly. They're never what they seem, but they're never nothing either. So I've learned, hey, I have to feel those feelings and feel them and act on them. And, I might have to sometimes err on the side of action. And, uh, and I know this whole process that I've gone through has been affected by this thing we call will. Now, was the effect an illusion? Since only one thing happened, does that mean that only one thing could have happened? Or that the word could have is just some, abstraction? What can I say? I experience will every single day. Maybe it's an illusion, but I experience it every single day. And for me to think it's an illusion, I have to have a reason. Now, the sun comes up every day. I see it, it moves in the sky. I have reason to believe the sun moves in the sky. But once it's explained to me that we're spinning and it's not really moving, well, that makes sense too. It looks like that too because the stars are going and everything. It makes sense. It's at least as good as a big ball that they're all stuck to. So the appearance gets updated, and then it really appears that way. Now, the sun moves in the sky. If I think about it, it looks like the earth is spinning, but, I still call it sunrise. But there, there's countervailing ideas, appearances to use and say, well, look at these other appearances. Look from space, there's other appearances. But if you don't have other appearances to rely on, how are you going to argue something like that? I mean, as a skeptic, my belief is that given that I have this strong appearance of will present in my life, I would be very hesitant to take some abstract set of principles, mathematical, physical principles, um, and conclude I didn't have will, because it's such a everyday experience. We're not just talking about deciding that the ghosts you've seen were your imagination. This is every single day, and it's crucial in every single decision and action that you take. When you decide to go here or there, you're saying that's an illusion. And it's every day, and it changes your whole fucking life. Even to deny that just a little bit, to say, well, I'll act like it, but I know it's not really there. Even that much of a reservation, to me, we're murdering will. And how it is when you see people doing something you think is wrong, or wrong-headed. I mean, not that it's morally wrong or anything. Of course, I don't believe that. But that it's wrong-headed, and that's what I see. And when you see those kinds of things, you pile on. And so I'm probably piling on, to say that the whole of the world's problems are this. But I really think it is, because look at the people. They have leaders that don't act in their best interests, and not even in the best interest those people consciously think they have. It's just so confused. And to me, it's a lot of the, this the pessimistic attitude of, we can't change anything, it doesn't really matter. I mean, how can someone tell me that's not related to thinking that will is an illusion? The fact that you think, well, you don't really have choices, it's just an illusion. Don't worry about voting, you don't really have choices, it's just an illusion. And yet the political system's really fucked up. Your political vote is pretty much an illusion. But how are you ever going to change that if you start off with the idea that every choice is an illusion? But also, I've had a love affair with nature. Gary likes to say, if you get older and branded, I've been branded by life. Don't give me that shit. I've had plenty hard life. But, I come from a working class background where maybe, I don't expect to be spoiled by the world. And in terms of the drama I've seen in the world, family life, this kind of thing, whenever I went out to nature, it was always a really positive thing, positive vibe, positive energy that I get from it. So the limitations of nature, to me, these are like, please, nature, tell me. I want to learn them. I just have a love affair with natural reality. So even if it were a slave master, I guess I would think twice before rejecting that in the same moment that I reject slavery from humans. To me, slavery from humans, that's the problem. When you say, we are really just a product, we think we're making a decision. Yeah, lots of people make what they think is a decision, and they didn't really make it. They're manipulated by advertisers and so on. And that is about the manufacture of consent, and it's an art form because there is will. But yeah, you could trick the will into taking itself out of the situation various ways. But we need to beat that. So I don't just want to assume that it is that way. And I refuse to believe anything that ignores the distinction between the slavery that man imposes on man versus the boundaries that nature imposes.